is not trash. It is a byproduct.
But I think in order for us to build true food security on any national level, we need to value our farmers, and we need to ensure that the market isn't demanding produce.
Let's take the waste off their hands for as much as possible. Let's not take it for free or for next to nothing anymore.
A farmer who processes, packages, preserves, and even create products is no longer just selling. You are now, in the value chain of agriculture.
It is a pleasure and honor to be here today. And to our amazing panel, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedules to contribute to the community and discussions this afternoon. It is very interesting to see conversations being had today and how they, connect individually within our food systems, but they're also siloed in focuses. And I think today the point is that we're going to be able to really dive in to each of those areas and learn from one another. So to the panel, thank you for joining. I wanted to take a moment and start with a question from Mr. Devesh. Hello, Mr. Devesh, how are you?
Hi, Kirisa. I'm very, very good, and welcome everybody on the board for this panel discussion.
Yeah, it's very exciting. It's very exciting. I think zero waste and circular economy solutions have been, a conversation for so long. And it's beautiful to see them moving into infrastructure and strategies of the future, which is really nice to see for this community. Mr. Devesh, would you mind helping us understand, what are zero waste production systems and the concept of circular economy? Because I think that's really where it begins.
Thank you, Carissa. The zero waste production system, as the name suggests, is basically designing a system where the waste is minimal, or the waste is rather renamed as a byproduct rather than considering as a waste. So the main difference here is you design a system where every input of the manufacturing system and its all outputs, including the streams which are not the main products, are subjected to another process where the maximum value is derived, maximum economic value is derived. So the key differentiator is the waste is not trash; it is a byproduct which still contains some economic value, and that needs to be further subjected to another process of conversion to derive maximum value out of it. So it's a guiding philosophy designed to eliminate waste rather than manage it.
Yes.
After it is generated.
Yes, and what's beautiful about that is waste is often a line item in our spreadsheets, right? And they're often a cost center, right? And building value to these products really helps that become a profit center for businesses that decide to invest and strategize. So I love that. And one other question I had for you as well was, how can it achieve food security? How does implementing circular economy and zero waste solutions and zero waste production systems contribute to food security?
Yeah, let me try and give you an example of money. Because we understand money, very well. We all try to create security through creating a surplus into the system. So if we want money security, we want to create a money surplus. So
Yes.
essentially what we are looking at, either earning more or spending less,
Right.
whichever whichever threshold we are in. So if we have the capability to earn more, we'll try and earn more, which in food systems you can say we want to grow more food. But unfortunately, there is so much earth available for agriculture, so there is a finite end to whatever we can do on the growing side.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so the option with us left is that we need to consume less, or consume optimistically and utilize whatever is available with us. So either it is by, as you go on the shopping and bargain more value for your dollar, or your dirham or whatever currency you are in. So it is the same case here. So you have to drive more value out of the per kg of raw material which you have,
Yes.
so
Yes,
that
it's
nothing
true.
is wasted.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in that case, food security is intervened into circular economy and zero waste production systems, because nothing is wasted. And every grain and every ounce of the the raw material which we are consuming is being utilized. So you are getting more value of the money spent on the farming and entire food system.
Yes, it's
And
true.
by doing that, you are also keeping the economy in motion, the material in motion, and all the components of the value chain are getting their maximum value, economic value, through a process, through a circular process. And I think the best outcome is that if we can avoid landfills.
Yes. Yes, definitely. Does anybody else in the panel would like to contribute to this conversation in terms of just how processing and waste diversion and basically ensuring that there is no waste can contribute to food security? And the reason I ask is because there is waste at many levels of the food supply chain, right? We talk a lot, at least the work I do talks a lot about farmers, right? But this exists in pack houses, this exists in the distribution level, as well as retail and the home. So I wanted to open the conversation for the rest of the panel to contribute.
Devesh is speaking my language. Yeah, I mean it's such a large issue globally, but being focused in the GCC region and living in the UAE, we see it with farmers every day, right? Just hundreds of thousands of agricultural waste being generated. I work closely with date farmers for many years now, and my heart kind of broke because they're only selling dates. They're only selling to end use or products that are made out of dates, and there's so much value, untapped value that they were missing. And so not only the trash, but how do we maximize your profit from what you're already selling? Better products, new innovations from the dates. The agricultural waste in the region is actually quite a large issue, because a lot of people think of the desert, they don't think we have agriculture, but we do have quite a bit of agriculture. So it's quite ironic. And when I came across the landfills and I saw a lot of it was being burned, and then working with the government and seeing our initiatives were not really aligning, right, as far as carbon neutrality goes, industrial resilience goes. So I'm like, okay, how do we bridge this gap? How do we tap into what others deem as garbage? How do we help farmers? How do we help the economy? How do we help the region contribute to these goals? And so that's kind of how my company, Safa Bioworks, came to be. But it's a very interesting subject.
Very cool. And Nima, have you come across any interesting solutions for date waste or agriculture, byproducts that you could share with us today?
Yeah, absolutely. So, date waste in general, depending on which stream it's being generated from. So the tree it's an amazing tree, right? It's been around for millennia, one of the oldest farm trees, the olive tree and the date tree. But I was like, what is this tree trying to give us more than just the fruit? So you look at the fronds, the regeneration of it has fronds, it has fruits, it has fibers. And there's many cutting edge companies in the UAE right now that are utilizing the waste streams, creating construction boards. Like Desert Board is creating construction materials from compressed date fronds. What Safa Bioworks does is we actually take it to another level. We're not creating biochar from the fronds or compressing. These are all more simplified methods. They're all a step in the right direction. I'm not trying to discredit. We actually brought in chemists and we did a bunch of testing and we analyzed the composition, the chemical makeup of it. We said there has to be components that we can use for various high value materials. And we found that a lot of the materials that we can make from the waste, actually we're importing all of it into the region right now. So the sugars that can be fermented into lactic acid or sodium lactate, calcium lactate for food ingredients, for various products. And like I said, it's 100% imported into the entire GCC, into the entire Middle East, from Asia, from Europe, from North America. And we saw what happened this year. We see the regional crisis, the ongoing crisis, the uncertainty. And so, our whole position is enough is enough. We're manufacturing all these amazing things in the region. Let's be completely self-reliant and let's produce some sovereignty with our manufacturing streams. So it's amazing. We're still coming up with ways to utilize the pits and the fronds and the sugars from rejected date fruit, right? There's so much date fruit that has a blemish or a scratch and it's not making it to shelves. And it's being thrown away. Yeah.
Naima, that's a great point, because I think when we're, thinking about sending food, specifically dates to retail, or we're planning to export it, we're trying to export the best, right? The ones, right? But when we think about the 2s and the 3s that, they're a little wonky and funny shaped, right? How can we turn them into products or redistribute them on a local basis, right? Maybe working with some form of food banks or lower access to barrier retail, where that food is then being redistributed directly into the local community. And when I was working and living in Thailand, I noticed this was very common within the community. Was a lot of the premium fruit was going to the hotels, the restaurants, being exported, and the 2s and the 3s just ended up in the local markets. And it was way more affordable for the local people to buy it and consume it. They weren't as picky. They just wanted to feed their families, And so sometimes I think, our national expectations of what goes to retail is sometimes a little bit higher than maybe what the consumer wants. And so it's some things for all of us to consider. And one other kind of point on the dates is date sugar, right? In North America, we've had this huge surge of date demand because we're noticing that the GI levels of dates is low, right? Much healthier for us than sugar. And chefs have been innovating with it on TikTok and Instagram, and people seem just so excited about it. So I hope that's helped on the demand side from the Middle East in some way. I wanted to move the conversation over to the ladies now. Ivan, did you have any comments in terms of circular solutions and how that can improve our food system?
Did you point the question at me?
Yes.
Yeah? Enough. Hi.
Hi.
Sorry.
Good. How are you?
It's enough. It's enough. Yeah. Yeah.
Are you and Ivan? Are you working quite a bit with packing houses and grading lines? I see from your bio. Okay. Great. And is that more on the tomato and cucumber and lettuce production, or is that a different commodity? Help us understand your work.
Okay. So my job is to bridge the gap between international standard and farmers. So I usually meeting the farmer and just testing what global market they want to achieve, and then support the or implement the standard in the daily routine. So the food security, from my perspective, it's from the international standard, because we're talking a lot about the quality of the food, the visibility, but we are not talking enough about, is it safe for
Yeah.
the consumer. So if the biological tests are clean, or from the chemical point of view or residue. So this is what I do. So I think you see here in our um, country, very efficient packing houses, a lot of surplus product or byproduct. Yes, there are um, um, going to the industry. A lot of byproduct are um, navigate to the industry for the like, if you will take the date byproduct, so
Mhm.
they make some silan or some all kind of, and then maximize the 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 for the grower, profit. So this is what we are doing. Yeah. So
Okay.
without I think what we are established, it's a very strong quality management. And then if you will establish the quality system, then, and you will not compromise the main product, and then you can navigate the byproduct and the surplus to other places, to the industry. um, so the consumer looking for a product that they can um, um, that will be clean and authentic, and product that they can trust, first of all. Yeah.
Yes. Well, and it's funny we talk about trust, right? Especially in misfit and byproduct. Because the truth of the matter is, we have a good idea of where our food and fresh produce in particular comes from, but there's very little transparency around that when it comes to source level, right? And that's not in every scenario, right? Some, like for example, greenhouse production has indoor climates. It's a lot easier to identify what's happened on the farm level. They're one of the, they have some of the strongest SOPs because their capex is so high. They need to be efficient and they need to be compliant, right? But when we think about what happens sometimes in other areas of production, outdoor farming, for example, and I don't mean to say that anyone is doing anything below standards in any way, but there is really a lack of traceability of that food, right? We start to see the traceability of it more when it comes more upstream, right? When it's making it to the distribution house or the pack house, but not necessarily always at the farm level. And I'm not 100% sure on the standards in the UAE, so I don't want to overspeak in any way. But I would love your thoughts on, of course, from a raw produce perspective, we need to ensure that there's compliance. But how do we also help educate and to ensure compliance for products that we're transforming, right, from these misfit and imperfect foods maybe that are becoming waste streams that are very valuable, right? What are your thoughts on that?
I think the traceability is already managed at the farm level, because first the farmer want to see if he is profitable, so he will summarize the crop for each plot or area or season that he have. So this is first. Second, if the farm or the grower comply with the standard, so even byproduct or big grade level will growth the same. So he will have to follow the standard to meet the regulation or the customer regulation. So he cannot do one of them like that and the other he will go grow like that. So basically he will manage the whole growth the same. So from that perspective, it will be safe for the consumer, also the byproduct. So yeah.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for your answers. It's great. And Mrs. Ulusola? Yes.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
Same
I would.
here.
I have some questions for you about this beautiful world of upcycling and waste valorization. But my question for you today is: many farmers focus on production, but a significant amount is created after harvest. How can farmers and agribusiness owners embrace processing and value addition to build more profitable food businesses? And on that note, is there any required infrastructure or processes that are needed in order for this to become something that is scalable long term?
Oh, definitely, definitely. Thank you, Carissa. You know, the reality is that, well, from my part of the world, until maybe a few years ago, many farmers were just stuck at the first layer of production. Then the waste level got so bad, others had to step in. And one of the things I advocate is that we all don't have to be in primary production. Yes, processors need us, but more people can come into processing. You know, one of the beauties of agriculture is that the value chain is long. I mean,
Yeah.
we're five of us here, and everybody is doing something different from the others. But
Yes.
there's this herd mentality, you know. So one of the things I tell people, and which I had to do myself, because I had been a primary producer for probably about maybe 6, 7 years. When COVID came, it taught us a huge lesson because, yes, we were sending food. I had to move to my farm for 3 months, and we were sending food out. But guess what? We couldn't still take everything at once. So
Right.
that was when it dawned on me that the excess must not go to waste. I've
Yeah.
always had a policy. It's a no, it's zero waste policy. When we started, everything that we used on the farm were imported. And I said, this is not sustainable. What and what are these? And I sat down, I broke them down. Today, we have our own compost, we have several pesticides, we have liquid smoke, we have even the worm cast on the farm. We make it into a worm cast slurry and sell to others as fertilizer. So right from that level, I knew that, okay, that is done. But how about the effectiveness of the harvest itself? Because food only starts after harvest. Well, I mean, it starts from when you put the seed in the ground. But for people to be able to eat it and appreciate it, just as the others have alluded to it, and even the previous speakers, it's got to be at that level where it is safe. We've heard it before. I mean, she even told us that even traceability from the farm can necessarily be a problem. So now we feed into other processors and we have our own processing units. And one of the key things, because we have bodies, we have bodies that also regulate these. So one of the things we've been able to succeed at is having processes every single product, even right from the farm production. So a new supervisor comes in and sees everything we've been doing. Yes, we can tweak it from time to time, but if I'm aiming to work with someone like ANAV, then she's got to, the first thing she's going to ask me, where are your processes? Where are your procedures? How do I know that what you're showing me has been through the right process? So
Yes.
that has been one of the key things that we've been able to do. So for us, we say that a farmer who processes, packages, preserves, and even create products is no longer just selling. You are now, in the value chain of agriculture, and you can be a processor. I hope that helps.
Yes. And it's interesting, I think the farm level SOPs, when you're not only producing, but also processing and packaging, are critical to success.
Oh,
It
yes.
really is because, and sometimes it is challenging to, there's a lot of upskilling that's required because if you're utilizing the current groups or your current base of production team, and then you're bringing them into value added processing. There's sometimes a little bit of a learning curve there, but I think that's so valuable, right? The farm level is building value doing work like that, and it helps improve the ROI for the farmer, right? Traditionally, and I'll just throw out a few stats here, but traditionally, the farmers are, when you look at the gross profit margins across the supply chain, the farmer is the lowest, and that's often because
Oh, yeah.
anywhere from 10 to 40% of his total harvest is devalued because it's a two or a three, right?
With the man.
And for so long, that's just been accepted. But I think in order for us to build true food security on any national level, we need to value our farmers, and we need to ensure that the market isn't demanding produce that is less than what it costs the farmers to produce, right? There
Yes.
needs to be some form of equitability in this process because it's been too long that the farmers have been, kind of told how much they're going to be how much they're going to be selling their food for, right? And I do believe long term with more centralized global market data, as well as a true understanding of farm level costs of production plus, because Farmer Joe deserves to bring his wife on vacation too every once in a while
Yes.
and to
Yes.
improve the education of his children, right? It's not just, yeah, I think we've neglected the farm level a little bit over the, I would say at least the last 40, 50 years. At least I'm noticing this in North America. But I do believe that there are somewhat of similar challenges around the world. Um, all right, everyone, I have one more question for all of you as we wrap up the session. And that is, when we think of different byproducts, so let's look at, pulp from juicing companies or the skins and seeds of those pulp, of those product byproducts. And then we think about the twos and the threes at the farm level that aren't making, it to retail or export. How do we value that? Because a lot of, business models in the waste valorization space, they're very much focused in on saying, oh, I'll take your waste because I know there's a cost of disposal associated to that, right? But the moment that upcycling starts to really trend and is moving from its inception stage to its scale stage, that that feedstock has value. And right now it's not being valued. Right now it's being saying, oh, this is cost of disposal, that's it. And you're not paying that in your business. But long term, and especially with scale, and if we want to bring upcycled products to market in a meaningful way, we need to be able to value the source of that material, whether it's a manufacturer, whether that's the producer. And I wanted everybody's thoughts on their ideas on how we could value that in a meaningful way, and how do we secure supply long term for the future of food, essentially, and food security. So, Ursula, I'll let you start, and then we'll move into Inav, and then Nima and Devesh. Okay?
Yes. What we do is that we also have livestock. So
Yes.
one of the key things we do is that some of the things that don't make it to the market, we either convert to compost. You know, I told you we make our own compost, which we use on the farm and we also sell. So automatically, every waste has its value. We
Good.
use them either as feed for our poultry, livestock, and we use in making our compost. Apart from that, we discovered that some are still edible, and if they pass our test, we have NGO groups where we also donate food to, and this becomes part of our CSR. Then in processing, some of them, it it's not that they're spoiled, it's maybe the look. So
Yeah.
when you put them through the maybe the dehydrator and all, they're not looking like when you sell fresh. And that is one of the things that processing does. It helps you to, kind of make it look a bit better. For instance, if you dehydrate kale, it's never going to be green.
Right.
So if I dehydrate kale, it will not be spoiled, but you know that the color is not going to be green. So one of the advantages is that for us, processing has extended the lives of even our, what you would have been waste to us. We really do try to manage it because it's very expensive trying to run a farm, especially in Nigeria. And as an organic farmer, among very many conventional farmers, I really have to always be on my toes. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. Inav, you're up.
Uh, okay, so I can share the sustainability standards that are rising across the globe because um, the large company want to assign their product as that produce from sustainability farm. So practically the carbon footprint and the sustainability farming is taking a lot of consideration while the large factory want to approve their supplier. So if you are sustainability farm, you will have the benefit that other farm don't have. So I think this need to be considered because what we just heard about the farming and every process that they are doing or byproduct. It's a part of the standard they are talking about the how we minimize or yeah minimize the footprint of our production, and this is will affect a lot about the climate and also our food security. So it's all combined. So we have to give a lot of attention to the sustainability farming. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I agree with you. And I think, sustainability, I think waste reduction and prevention and value and creating value from those waste streams is, the essence of sustainability at the farm level, right? So that's great. Thank you for sharing. And Nima, what are your thoughts on the value side of things? Because I imagine you do a lot with this on the valorization side.
I do, and everyone brought up, I mean, amazing points. I love to hear this. There was a time when waste was overlooked and it was free. You could just walk
Yeah.
up to the farmers and take it off their hands, and all was good, right? Now there's a price for waste, and so if we look at agricultural waste, for example, uh, Olasula is selling her waste byproducts, right? And she's using it on her own farm. That has a price tag to it. And so that price tag will go up in time. What I'm interested in is what that price is now and how can we create the most value from it and how can we increase that price over time and justify it. So whereas waste used to be free here, let's just look at date palm waste, for example. 20 years ago, you could just take it off the hands of people. Now it's 30 dirhams or, let's just say $10 USD for a ton of waste, fronds or miscellaneous waste to take off the farmer's hands. Are we turning that 30 dirhams or $10 into $20, $30? What are we creating from that
Right.
waste now? So I'm really interested in how can we maximize the value chain and the supply chain by increasing the value as much as possible. That's why we came up with looking at what composition, what's the makeup of all this waste. And there's different waste streams. I actually come from the world of petrochemicals, from plastic manufacturing, from OEMs, and I take used car parts and tires and rubber, and I take those waste streams as well. Carpet, I recycle all the carpet from New York and California right now. We send it to Tennessee. We recycle all the fibers. We turn it into a prime resin that goes back into automotive applications, for example. But for food security, this is a bigger issue. This affects us at a human level even more, because farmers are it's a sector that needs to be paid attention to. It's a sector that needs to be revamped, reboosted, taken care of. I love what you said about Farmer Joe and his wife and his family. They deserve to go on 3 vacations a year, right? Not just one.
Yeah.
And so, coming from the cornfields in Tennessee, like I see this, and they struggle with gas prices, tractor prices. Like the cost is just continually going up. So let's take the waste off their hands for as much as possible. Let's not take it for free or for next to nothing anymore. Let's take it and let's show them what we're doing with it. So in our case, for example, like I mentioned, sugars, lactic acid, and then various other byproducts. And we're even doing research on the pits, for example, right now, or lignin, high lignin waste streams, which we can turn into sustainable aviation fuels and bioethanol for energy, for, again, maximizing the value chain. So it's super exciting. There's so much research to be done, and my encouragement is for everyone to not stop, to look at what's the next best thing we can do. What other high value outcomes can we produce from this worth, not waste, it's worth. So
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
my
I
two
love it.
cents.
Thank you, Nima. That's great. And I'm sure you've gone through, the financial modeling of quite a bit of this work, right? And you've seen it firsthand. I wanted to share one quick piece on my end. Was when I was working on fruit and vegetable powders, date sugar, things like that in high volumes. What I noticed is larger food manufacturers, they want a similar source every year for X amount of years in order for them to be able to change out an ingredient, right? So if they want to use a more sustainable date product, in this bar, right, they need to know that that product is coming from the same source year over year, and that they're going to be getting, a similar product year over year. It's very risky for them, right, because their operation is so large. And so I think as long as we're considering, how do we value that to ensure consistency and quality over the years for our potential customers, I think that's one of their scary points is, will this product, this upcycled or valorized product, be consistent year after year? Is that ingredient source the same? Because at the retail level, you get oranges here and you get clementines here, and you get very small amounts. But at the farm level, there's a plethora, right? And I think it's about working with the farmers and the producers to really say, okay, how do we make this work over the next 5 or 10 years? Do you plan on being, farming for that much longer, right? And I'm talking really like at the big scale right now, not so much in the CPG space, or the smaller CPG, newer product space. But yeah, I wanted to share that. And I wanted to conclude with Devesh. Devesh, what are your thoughts on valuing waste? Whether that's the level, the retail level, and any thoughts you have on that?
I think that there's enormous potential of value creation in food value chain. The biggest problem I think we face is because it's perishable in nature. So ensuring food safety and eatability, edibility along with the value chain is a big issue. That is number one. Number two, scalability is an issue because we have so many products and raw materials to deal with, and not every raw material will have the same treatment.
Right.
So I think we are doing a lot of good efforts individually, but then to address that as a community, to address that as a as a city, as a municipal corporation, as a country, we need some kind of a collective approach where we can have maybe a processing center or a community center on a village level or town level where everybody can come and dispose of their waste, and there is a value which is kind of derived from that, because at individual level it is very difficult for a farmer to augment resources to process that. So he has to derive value out of that. So he will
Yeah.
probably sell it. He will not
Yes.
upscale it. He will not upcycle it because he doesn't have resources to do that, and the quantum is very small. His
Yes.
own quantum is very small, so it is not processable. You need some minimum quantity to make a project viable, economically viable.
Yes.
And
I
food
agree.
has the problem of quantity.
Yes. Have you noticed there's been a challenge to access larger scale processing in specific clusters like the greenhouse clusters or the date clusters that Nima's working in? Do you have any feedback on that?
Yeah, that is a very very good work which is being done. But then this needs to be educated and taken on a mission mode, I would say.
Yeah. And also connecting the supply and the demand for larger scale agro-processing solutions, right? Because it's pretty hard to get the funding for a $10 million project if you don't have the demand on the other end, right? And that's often one of the biggest challenges. And often, we're expecting the farmers to pay this, but at the end of the day, my opinion is that food security and food infrastructure should be something that our government pays for and that builds the infrastructure for, and we're able to then lease it or pay as we go, because it shouldn't be on the shoulders of the farmer to deal with larger scale infrastructure. And also, when you're processing at a small scale, like maybe just Farmer Joe, for example, right? He may only have a couple tons of waste by the end of his
Yeah,
harvest,
yeah,
but then his neighbors all have a couple tons of waste, and then
true.
it starts to become meaningful, right? So I think it's definitely more community driven and focused versus I'm Farmer Joe, I'm going to have my own processing, right? And then Farmer Isabel next door, she's going to have her own processing too. Kind of like how all the greenhouses have a pack house. Like I think they're all next to each other and they all have a pack house. It's kind of confusing. But I also understand that they look for their independence and they're also operating at a large scale. So it does make sense for them. Yeah, interesting. Devesh, thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate your feedback. This was a wonderful panel to be a part of. Thank you, everyone. I think we've made new friends, and I look forward to connecting with each one of you after the event. And I think we're ready to sign off.
Thank you for
Thank you
having
all.
us.